together and trying to bring that to the table. I do not want taxes to go up.
This is kind of an interesting, I don't know how much time we have and we want to spend on it, but it was in August, I think, 2 years ago, if I think I'm right, Kennecott said that they would like services provided to the water authority. That's the first time that I'm aware of that anything like that had been asked. So they asked the water authority. The water authority says, okay, what is it that you need? You can't just say, I want service, like, do you want a gallon of water a day? You want 10,000 gallons? How much sewer do you have? What is it? So they have to be told. They never, and I stress this, they never told the water authority what they needed. And then it was about, that was in August. And all of a sudden, Representative Davis files this bill in Austin saying they could be released. He never came to the water authority and said, I'm going to do this if you don't do something. And by God, that law passed. We, the water authority, was never aware it was going to be done. Kennecott never, and I stress this as hard as I can, never told the water authority what they wanted. Now, having said that, I don't know if you folks, do you know what Kennecott produces over there? You know what CoQ10 is, some of you people that take vitamins? That's one of their products over there, and they use a lot of water. And it comes out, the reused water from the plant here could be used there for almost nothing compared to what they're paying the city of Pasadena for water. Isn't that an interesting idea?
Well, thank you for that. I hated to just branch off on that with you. And it's a shame that the Clerk Water Authority didn't know about it because I knew about it. I knew about it as a citizen here. There was enough conversation going on about it in the community, but I said that I didn't want anyone lecturing up here, so I'm gonna drop that. Okay.
You have to sanction yourself.
Yes, that's it. And our water and the timer's dead, so we're going in a honor system. I was presented with several questions. I know you need to ask a question. I had 3 questions personally I wanted to ask. That was one of them. The second one is, in 1963, deed restrictions were developed for the golf course. Is that correct? They prohibited from being used from anything other than a golf course or other recreational entity until 2021. Okay. Is it deeded to have a retention pond there? That's not a recreational facility. Has something changed in the ordinances since '62 to allow this deed to go in place? I know that it was filed and requested by the board to have that deed restriction changed, but I cannot find any literature saying that it has been.
Mike, you want me to answer?
Yes, sir.
I think this Friendswood Development Company, it's Exxon,
Right.
agreed that it would be okay.
Is that in writing somewhere that we can review?
They are the ones that hold the deed, the title.
Is that in writing so I could read it somewhere? It just concerns me spending roughly $65 million on a deed restriction.
65 million is nothing.
Estimated, depending on where you look at.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not worried about
15 million, 17 million, overtime 35. Okay.
Mike, I'll tell you what I'm trying to do. I will try to see if that actually was not put in writing, and I will get it to you.
I would appreciate that. Yes, sir. And
I'd like to request that not only to get the input, put it on the website so that everybody has.
that would be great.
I'll have it, if I can find it.
If you can find it.
I'll have it put on a Clear Lake City at CLCWA.org.
Right.
Yeah, just put it on.
Okay, and I'll have it on my website just as it's posted. Okay, and my third question. We as residents pay in a drainage fee tax, correct? Okay, we were paying it into the city of Houston. Now, my understanding is just researching the bill, it now goes to the Clear Lake City Water Authority. to delegate the funds? Am I anywhere, there's a lot of information out there. I've just been pulling in, trying to get a couple of questions. Based on the research, I pulled off the internet. It looks like we're putting a little over $2 million a year into a drainage fund that would have gone to Houston City, Houston City drainage. Now it's going to Clear Lake. My impression is it's going to be allocated to go to the old golf course. That's one story. I haven't found a second story to say that 2.3 million, or however much it is, will be distributed among all the areas so that we can bring the entire infrastructure up instead of select areas. Is any of this factual, and where can we go with this?
You want me to answer, or do you want
I'll
them
invite anybody knows anything
Well,
about it.
you-
Anybody.
I was involved with that when that came to fruition, and being an architect, I have my whole lot on CAD, and I can very easily find out pervious/impervious surface, which has to do with that drainage tax. And I had another engineer, and then met an engineer that was at that meeting. And all of us came to the conclusion that the calculations were off 31 to 33% on their calculations, in their favor, by the way. So, I would ask the question, the deal has been made to spend the 2.3 or whatever it is in drainage, not necessarily in the detention facility, for drainage, is I believe the way that I've been told that it's. Drainage is not necessarily detention. And I'm would like to know if when that deal was made, if it was patched, or did we actually fix the problem? I would rather fix something than patch something. In other words, if those numbers are skewed 31 to 33%, and I don't know all the dealings, Gordon knows a lot more than I do, and maybe you can answer that, Gordon.
I don't understand your 33% skewed. It means what?
If you take my lot
Yeah.
with my house on it,
Correct.
and you figure pervious/impervious surface, that ratio,
Yeah, I got
it
that.
was off by 31 to 33%. And the only way that I can think that it may have been off was the same thing that HCAD does. It was through a satellite image.
That's correct.
That they came in.
That's my
and-
understanding.
But it was off. And I'm hopeful that it was.
That's the city of Houston doing it, and Water Authority has nothing to do with it. They're the ones.
So let me talk a little bit about that fee that you're talking about. The city of
Yeah,
Houston,
you actually worked on
the city of
I just
Houston,
have a couple of quick ones.
Go.
sorry. Let me talk about that fee, Laura, that you're talking about. The drainage fee started out by the city of Houston saying that every homeowner in the Houston, with a Houston address would be charged a drainage fee based on the amount of impervious land that they have on their property. And they used satellite images to determine what it was, and the city of Houston put it together very quickly. I was against that drainage fee from the beginning because I knew we already had a water authority that dealt with the drainage in the Clear Lake City Water Authority for those people with a Houston address. And I fought very hard with the Clear Lake City Super Neighborhood to put together a community meeting. We had 400 people at that meeting complaining about why in the world would you double tax the people of Clear Lake City because you, Houston, think that you have some drainage money you want to take from us. When our drainage problems are solved and worked for and dealt with by the Clear Lake City Water Authority. So we fought very hard. We had our meeting, the press was there, many phone calls went up to the city. Then we got 12 of us to go up to the city and talk to the mayor at the mayor's meeting that occurs every week. And when I walked up to the podium, I was the first person to stand there. When I walked up to the podium, she said, before I said any, well, I gave my presentation, and then before I said anything else, she said, you tell your people down in Clear Lake they don't have to pay that fee. That fee was never supposed to be charged to those homeowners. That's exactly what she said to me in that meeting, and it's on the recording as well. So I stood there, I said, you're telling me that the people in Clear Lake City with a Houston address do not have to pay your drainage fee? That's correct. They should have never been charged that drainage fee. And they're gonna remove the accounts from the city. That's right, those accounts shouldn't have been made. And they went through the process of doing that. And then afterwards, came down to the Clear Lake City Water Authority and said, now what you gonna do about this? The Clear Lake City Water Authority, not wanting to get into a legal battle, as I understand it, with the city of Houston, came up with a negotiation to look at the money they currently spend on the drainage that occurs in the Clear Lake City Water Authority area and say, well, if we meet this number, that'd be good enough? And the city said, that'd be good enough, because the city wanted to be able to say that Clear Lake City is spending about the same amount of money as the city of Houston is. That's why they don't have to pay that drainage fee. Last year, the Clear Lake City Water Authority spent $2.3 million on improvements to drainage. And it doesn't have to be detention ponds or anything like that. It's repairs to pipes and so forth and so on. They do that pretty much every year, if not more. In fact, if you looked at the numbers from last year, and I did, $7 million of money was spent on replacing equipment. So there's all kinds of arguments how it's very easy to reach that agreement between the city of Houston and the Clear Lake City Water Authority. What offends me more than anything about that was we were being double taxed and we fought against it. And the city used the power that they had to come down here and impact every single person that lives in the Clear Lake City Water Authority. Because the Clear Lake City Water Authority has a lot more to do than just with the Houston proper. I happen to have a Houston address, but they have a lot more to do with that. And I was offended that they came in and let's just say, convinced the Water Authority that an agreement needed to be made. But I'll tell you what, that drainage fee was wrong from the beginning. I fought like heck to make sure it wasn't charged to the owners of the houses in that community and with Houston addresses. And I'll continue to do the exact same thing into the future. So the good news about the Clear Lake City Water Authority is they didn't come up with a $5 or $10 million attorney fee, and I can promise you, I understand that. They didn't come up with a big attorney fee fighting the city of Houston over this. They came up with a way to negotiate with the city of Houston so this could be worked out. And you, the members down here in Taylor Lake Village, wouldn't have to pay additional taxes or additional fees because of it. So I was very impressed with the way that they handled it. And I was very involved in that whole thing. And I'm very proud I was.
All right, thank you. All right.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm very concerned about my taxes.
What's your name? What's your name?
Dennis here.
Dennis.
I live in Clear Lake, and I'm looking at my taxes. I noticed that I pay the city of Houston 64 cents per $100 in valuation. 64 cents per $100 in valuation. The city of Houston uses that 64 cents to provide me fire, water, park, libraries, all city services. And I look at the city, Clear Lake City Water Authority, and 28 cents, about 40% about what I pay the city of Houston. And all y'all have to do is provide me water and sewer. And you can't do that. On 40% of what I give the city of Houston to give me all those services? That astounds me. We are, if you live in the city of Houston, in the Clear Lake City Water Authority, you're one of the highest taxed people in this county, in the city, in the area. And it's just astounding that we're talking about not having enough money when you know, and I know that if you look at the website, they brag about how cheap our water is and how, you know, they don't take into consideration the taxes. And if you consider the taxes, well, it's a little bit different for everyone. Mr. Johnson, we pay $124 last year in taxes. I paid exactly 10 times that. And so if I take into consideration the taxes I pay the Water Authority, plus what I pay for the water.
Question?
It comes out to, Friendswood is more expensive. My question is, what are we gonna do to reduce the fees that we're paying? The bonds, Mr. Morgan said, all of our voters pay, we vote on all of our debt. Well, that's not completely true. we just had a bond election in 2012.
Just to make a point, it sounds like a lecture. Just please
Yeah,
ask
okay.
a
All
question.
right, well, what are we gonna do to keep from raising our debt instead of reducing it and reducing what we're paying month to month? Because we're paying a lot more than a lot of other people in here.
Could I pass this out and let everybody just get a copy? I'll give it to Mr. Paul here. Paul, it's- You just passed it out for the rest and they can look at it themselves. It's a link. It's a partial answer to what you're raising.
I think I've seen that. That's our water rates.
Water rates and
Yeah,
tax
but
rates.
again, it doesn't take into consideration the taxes we pay.
That's the only thing that it meant, the only thing we collect was water and taxes. What else is there?
Right, well, so that means nothing. You don't consider the taxes that we pay.
No, I appreciate your question, and if I might address the idea of one of my goals, one of my pre-stated goals is to see that the quality of the water and a competitive water system keep the costs down. We're gonna have to repair infrastructure. But if we plan it properly, if we execute it appropriately, those costs will be effective in maintaining the system. But it's important to make sure there's good management of the folks working and the project's completed. To answer your question, that's the only way to get out of the cycle of getting more debt and therefore higher taxes. Nobody's creating any more land.
I guess from my perspective, I don't know, because I haven't had a chance to look at the numbers. What I do for a living is look at numbers. I do analysis of subcontractor proposals to us. I look at our proposals to the government. One of the things, if I am elected, I will look at the data. I enjoy looking at raw data and being able to, I manipulate an Excel spreadsheet faster and better than anybody I know. So all I want is the raw data. And then I'll see what I can do. And then we should be able to answer your question better. Where are the holes? Where are we paying? What are we doing with these? Because right now I don't see that. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I have to do for my management on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And I'd like to try and be able to do those same kind of things for the water.
Let me submit my question.
Maybe we're answering the wrong question.
Let me amend my question. If I'm paying the city of Houston for some of these services, and I know that the water authority is supposed to provide me water and sewer, et cetera, and drainage, but then I pay also Harris County Flood Control District, who does a very good job. They spend $1 million a day on flood control issues. And then I pay City of Houston for parks and recreation. Why do I need to duplicate that? Should the water authority be in parks and recreation? And should the water authority be in flood control when we're already paying that to someone else? It's like you said, why are we gonna pay City of Houston for drainage when we're paying the water authority for drainage? Why now is the water authority getting into flood control, which they were never in before the golf course came up? And now Parks and Recreation, which you said in here, they say now that they can raise up to 10 cents per 100 evaluation for Park and Recreation. It's in the paperwork, that y'all can raise our rates 10 cents per 100 evaluation for Parks and Recreation. Why do I need to pay that again, when I'm already paying that to the City of Houston, and I'm paying Harris County Flood Control for flood control? Why do I need to duplicate that? That's the other question. That's a better question. Do you think the water authority should get into that business?
No. I mean, you know, I want to see the water authority, one, stay within its boundaries. I mean, for several times that they're worried about development and things that happen beyond the other side of Highway 3. That's not in the water authority thing. I don't think that if they are doing anything for Parks and Recreation, they should be. And we agree with you that it's the three main things we've talked about: water, sewage, drainage. Now, the question is, at what point does the golf course, does it cross the line? I don't know. It's a good question. So I hope that answers partially your question.
The water authority's, one of their primary tasks is drainage. And detention is a form of making sure that your drainage works. They've been in that business since they've been opened. If you look at the ownership of the pipes that come in through all of these communities, the water authority owns the pipes under the ground that take the drainage out from your community. So there's no difference. I mean, they're not adding a new business, as you say. They're continuing to do what they've always done, which is one of the things that they've always done, which is drainage.
With the drainage issue that we have here in the detention facility that's going to cost this exorbitant amount of money the way that it sits now. Vince, I've sat in board meetings where Vince here has some different ideas that instead of spending $500,000 on lift station number 4, we spend $100,000 and smoke test it and see if we can come up with something a little simpler, a little easier, a little less on the pocketbook. The storm water system runoff was put in place 40, 50 years ago. We have new ways of doing things now. That we put an angle on it and it drains. It's not a matter of detention, detaining water. What I'm hopeful that I'm seeing some things because of my professional eye, I'm hoping we're not getting into this regional detention facility issue. In other words, this new subdivision going in, that they're allowed to do half of the detention as required, and we're mitigating some of it over to...
Just so I'll correct that right now, the new developments going in is meeting the full requirements for detention. There's no half detention going on for them, they're meeting the full requirement.
12 inches.
The 12 inches, absolutely.
Okay.
And they're putting in the detention ponds from the beginning of the development so that their work over in putting in those new houses will not negatively impact, even during the construction phase. They are absolutely meeting the whole thing. The reason I know that is some of my community work, they have come and presented their plans to the Association of Clear Lake Communities, something that I volunteered on. And that was one of my questions. Are you meeting the new requirements? Are you going to make sure that you're not impacting our community? And the developer said absolutely. And he told us that they're building the detention ponds first so that there is no impact to the community, even from the beginning of the plan.
That's correct. Well, I don't know what more to add, but going back to the Kennebec project, you know, if all that's in the water authority and they build, there's a lot of open land there to build plants. If they build there, put in parking lots, they're gonna have to satisfy the Clear Lake City Water Authority's detention retention. But if they get out of it, they won't have to. And guess who's gonna flood? Just think about that. He says, we don't have the land on the other side of Highway 3 belongs to the Water Authority. We should ignore it. There's land there, and there's water's gonna fall on it, believe it or not. And you know what? That water that falls on it is gonna come this way. So you can't ignore something because it's not in the district.
All right. Well, with that said, why don't we give you a chance to close? If you choose to, or we can just go ahead and stop the meeting. There were some questions that were presented to me that we didn't get time to ask. If I get these questions to you, will you get them to me, and then I'll put them on my website?
Sure.
And you know who you are that submitted the questions. I didn't get to ask them. I welcome you to go to the RobertsonConnection.com I will have your questions posted there as soon as I get a response from these candidates.
I think we should thank Mike Robertson for putting this together.
Thank you, and thank you for staying with it so long. I know these queues are horrible, and, but thank you. And if y'all have questions for them, and y'all can just walk up to them and ask. If you can catch them before they go down.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm trying.